This is the 3-1 to 3-2 review. Calculators are not allowed. Number 2. The instructions for each of these three is to find f prime of -1 for each of the following. So our goal is to take the derivative of each of these and then plug in -1. Now the issue is that if we look at this, they all do not look like power rule applications. So the hard part, or I should say the initial step in each of these, is to rewrite these as powers of x. So on the first one we can see that we have a -3x to the 5th plus an x to the 1 plus, now this one doesn't look like x raised to a power, so to fix it we need to recall that powers on the bottom are the same as negative powers on the top. Same thing with this one, we can write 1 over x as a x to the -1. So if I continue that process with the rest of these, I'll get a -2x to the 4th plus an x squared plus an x to the -5th minus an x to the -2. If I look at the third one, I have a -5x to the 7th minus an x cubed plus an x to the -6 plus an x to the -1. Now that I have all three of these, all of the terms for each of them written as powers of x, I am ready to take the derivative by applying the power rule. So the power rule, if you recall, is we're going to take whatever the power is, bring it down in front, and then decrease the power by 1. So here I would bring the 5 down in front, so that's a -15, and then I reduce the power by 1, so that 5 goes to a 4. Here the power currently is a 1, so if I bring it in front, that would give me a 1x to the 0. Well, anything to the 0 power is just 1, so we end up with a 1. For my next term, I'd bring that -4x. Now, some people will mess up here because they will add 1 instead of subtracting 1. If I subtract 1 from this power, I'm going to get a -5. Finally, I have a -1 times a negative in front gives me a positive x to the -2. So now our goal is to plug in -1. So if I plug in a -1, let's recall that negative numbers raised to odd numbers remain negative, whereas negative numbers raised to even powers become positive. So this one, plugging in the -1, the x to the 4th will be positive times the -15 is a -15. Here I still have a 1. Then I have a -4 times a -1 to a -5th power. So that's an odd power. That means plugging in the -1 to this is going to make it negative times the -4 will give me a positive 4. And then lastly, I have another positive 1 because I've got an even power. So if I add this up, I have a 6 plus a -15 gives me a -9. So let's look at the next one. Again, we're going to take the derivative using the same process. I will get a -8x to the 3rd plus a 2x to the 1 minus a 5x to the -6. Remember, we're subtracting 1 from that power, plus a 2x to the -3. If I plug in a -1 now, I will get a positive 8 minus a 2 minus a 5 minus a 2. So put that all together, we end up with a -1. Last, taking the derivative, we will have a -35x to the 6th minus a 3x squared minus a 6x to the -7th minus an x to the -2. Plug in a -1, be careful with the signs. Even powers generate positive, so a positive times a negative is a -35. Here I won't change the sign. Here I will change the sign. Oops. Don't have that x anymore, sorry. And lastly, I will not change the sign. So add that together, -38 plus 5, we get a -33.